Thank you for joining us at Global Speakers Forum. As you know, we're a networking group created by speakers for speakers. Each month, we bring you high-quality programs given by our members. At the end of this program, we have a free gift for speakers. This month, we have David K. Burden. David has inspired, challenged, and entertained national audiences for over 2 decades. Passionate about developing people and making the workplace productive and respectful, David has performed many functions in both public and private organizations prior to striking out on his own and founding the People Development Group. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you David Burden.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Burden, and I'm here from the People Development Group. And thank you so much, Shelley, for that wonderful introduction. It always pays to bring the person who's introducing you, no matter how many of these talks you give. Today, I'm here to talk to you about the whole idea of a topic that I've become very passionate about. That topic is developing resilience. I've been a consultant and a trainer and public speaker for probably 25 years. So you're looking at me, I am about 9,000 years old at this point. So I've learned to take my own advice. One of the reasons that I've come is because of the nature of the calls I get from organizations. Hospitals, manufacturing concerns, mortgage companies, the stock market, they never call when things are going great. They generally call at the point where there's a layoff pending or some reduction in workforce. They're getting ready to initiate a significant change initiative. And we all know how much we love change. The people who work for us love it just as much almost, and that's a joke. You can laugh later. Workplace violence is on the rise. I hate to be the bearer of bad news this afternoon. We're in lovely Orange County. It's a wonderful day. But I do a lot of work around the country, and workplace violence is occurring everywhere, some days, at some point of the day, almost every hour. It's become an epidemic, and so we talk about resilience in response to a lot of these actions that organizations are facing. Suicide from staff members, also something on the rise, to the point where we have organizations here in California, primarily from USC and UCSD, who are actually beginning to follow those numbers. Right now, the state of California leads the state in terms of staff suicide. And then just project and process life cycles. Call after call I get from organizations, they're saying, my folks aren't productive, they're not competent, and they begin to label staff members and sort of put them into a penalty box. But when I go in and start asking questions, I discover, you know, your process life cycle has been considerably accelerated based on a variety of factors. So these folks are not having competence issues, they're burned out is what they are. And when we have to step back and take a look too is we have to take a look at the fact that work is not all people have going on in their lives. A lot of other circumstances are befalling the American working public right now, and they are showing up at the doors of employers. One of the other things that's happened is I've been called in for a variety of reasons. You know, people say the staff isn't performing, the staff isn't getting along, morale is low, productivity is low. So you start looking around and you say, okay, well, there could very well be some challenges around maybe some performance improvement issues. And at People Development Group, our motto is developing people who make businesses run. So clearly, I'm always on the lookout for developing a performance model. But for the most part, the foundation of any performance model is resilience, because change is everywhere all the time. You can't stop it. You absolutely can't stop it. What you can begin to change, though, is how people respond to change. Employees show up for work every day, competent in terms of their job description, but in terms of being able to manage themselves around just the emotional aspect of change is where I've stepped in with this particular model on developing resilience. But first we have to define it. I've told you I'm very passionate about this, and so I've been looking at resilience for quite some time. I look at people who are resilient and I learn from them. I look at children, because children typically, if you ever do research, you look up resilience, you're going to get pages of studies on children. Okay, we get it. Children, short memories, not a lot of baggage. Resilience is probably something that they have in spades. The older we get, it tends to dissipate. So I thought, well, let's get a working definition for it. One of the definitions that I have is absorbing high levels of change while displaying minimal dysfunction. Does that sound comfortable? Because it doesn't say while not being dysfunctional, it says while minimally displaying dysfunction. So what does that tell you? And this is a nationally accepted definition. It's a nationally accepted definition. That definition right there explained why many of my physician friends are writing record numbers of prescriptions for Xanax, Ambien, and Prozac. Because somewhere around, I see people nodding, yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. I came all the way up here to deliver some pretty interesting tidbits of info. But displaying minimal dysfunction is probably not going to give an employer a lot of bang for their buck in terms of developing an employee pool that's viable and flexible and can manage conflict. Another definition that you hear quite a lot is the whole issue of bouncing back. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Boy, something happened and we bounced right back. Well, for me, the challenge with bouncing back is that if you're bouncing back to the position you were in prior to a chaotic event, prior to a stressful event or something that was unpleasant, what have you gained? You're put right back in the same neighborhood where the event began. So we've come up with our own definition for resilience, which we have dubbed bouncing forward. The ability to bounce forward is the ability to both thrive despite and during periods of stress and chaos without lashing out at others or engaging in behaviors that are counterproductive to our goals, projects, and causes. Does that sound impossible? Some people think it is. We can go to them. Because typically when something happens, when there's an event in the workplace, what typically happens is you get the first model of resilience training. You get the emotional and crisis model, and those are great. Those are the times that you call me out, something's happened, I help people make sense of it. I show people where they fit into the new order or how to make sense of something bad that has happened. We provide an environment where people can vent and share their feelings. We focus on feelings, the coming to terms. That model, typically done in like a half-day format, about 3 or 4 hours of a session. And it sometimes does improve or increase employee loyalty. Something bad has happened, there's been a major change. The employer provides the service, the staff feels as though they have a lot of value, and everybody's happy at the end of the day, most of the time. The model that I use and advocate for the majority of the time is the career development model. Because you know what? It's not just today's change that we need to prepare people for. If we're changing today, we'll be changing again next week and next year and the year after that. We can't continue to burn people out and have to rehire as they get tired and go somewhere else. Or, most commonly in the state of California, they go off on disability. Or they just go on vacation, and while they're sitting at your desk in your office, they're basically looking for another job. That's not a productive workplace, is it? So when we talk about the career development model, it's a skill development focus, and we'll talk about what those skills are in a moment. It's part of an ongoing employee development program, and ongoing is the key word there. Because training and development can't just be an event that happens with balloons and firecrackers and cookies and milk. We need to be able to build that into our business model. So when I'm working with organizations that range from the County of Los Angeles, the state of California, I'm advocating for them to begin developing these skills. Anytime they have an audience of their staff members, I'm making them commit at least 10 minutes to this discussion of skill development. You know, and also one of the biggest benefits there is that it produces measurable results. because you're able to hear what's going on, you're able to make a process around it, you're able to marry that with productivity, and you're able to move forward. All of this helps the staff members. Because when we're talking about this model, we're talking about skills now that don't guarantee employment, because we're past that, aren't we? You know, most companies across the country are doing at-will employment contracts. So there's not any guarantee that anyone's going to be in any one place for X number of years. So we can't promote that as a benefit of coming to work for us. But we can develop loyalty out of our employee pool when we make them more employable. Those are the hidden employment benefits that companies that are on the leading edge and being flexible, and these are companies that are really being creative and thinking out of the box in terms of how they're going to do their recruiting efforts. This model, for me, has also allowed the staff and the people attending those sessions to get their hands into the skills, to get their hands in and be able to practice the skills so that at the time a crisis occurs, at the time a problem comes up, or the time a change is occurring, they've already got a sense of what they're going to be doing. The magic recipe. There's all kinds of resilience training. I like Joan Baez and the holding hands and let's do a potluck as much as the next person. But at the end of the day, there are some very specific domains of skill that need to be developed. First and foremost is managing conflict. Powering through is not managing conflict. Being at a table when there's a problem and hollering at people and developing your own agenda, not a strategy for dealing with conflict. We show people precisely how they can disagree but still harness the creativity from that. Using diversity as a tool. When we've got problems, I don't need a room full of David Burtons all saying the same thing. This is an opportunity for me to really harness diversity and use it as an action item. Communication. Language is not transparent. We need to learn the language of resilience, and we need to learn a language that doesn't exclude people but brings them all to the table and gives them a place at the table. Problem solving, critical thinking skills. Most organizations hire for competence and then they develop problems with attitude. Another way of looking at that is maybe we should be hiring for attitude and training for competence. And I certainly have spent 80% of my time doing problem solving and critical thinking training. And then last is stress management. We don't know how to take care of ourselves. We just don't. That's a national statistic. You know, when we do this, we improve the value that employees provide. You know, we are able to maintain productivity even in the midst of chaotic changes that are going on. How great is that? To have a sea be rocky, but we're still moving forward. And that's what resilience is all about. People learn to become more flexible without bending or breaking. Health is maintained, both individually and for the organization. People develop through this process of developing resilience. You'd be amazed how people begin to learn things about themselves that make them more valuable and more rich for your organization. You know, if you would like additional information about this topic, I'm in the process of writing a book about resilience as well. If you'd like any other information about that, my contact information is right there on the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. If you'd like to book David Burton to speak or would like to recommend him to speak at an organization, you can contact him directly. His website is www.peopledevelopmentgroup.com, and his number is area code 619-255-9658. Thank you so much for joining us today. This program is brought to you by the members of Global Speakers Forum, the leading speaking community providing effective training, tools, connections, and exposure for speakers of all levels. Visit us at our website, www.globalspeakersforum.com. Again, that's www.globalspeakersforum.com. And if you are a speaker, please be sure to click on the button that says Free Gift.